Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast. I am your regular host, Latara, here with our guest host for the week, Steven. Hello.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
All right, Steven, how about you take a minute, introduce yourself, let the people know what your background with Passions is, and like anything else you want to share.
Sure. Well, my name is Stephen Wenzel. I'm a national politics reporter in Canada. Grew up as a passions junkie, for better or worse. Mostly worse. But so generally I do a lot of political coverage here in Canada, trying to branch out to do a little bit of US reporting. If you want to follow me, I have a little newsletter that comes out on Thursdays. It's called The Blueprint at theblueprint902.substack.com. Grew up as a big fan of Passions, and Laura and Latara, when they started the Passions podcast, that was just what I needed to get through the pandemic. It was really great to kind of live vicariously through, your guys's, like, I don't know, just especially with Laura watching it for the first time, it was really great to kind of get that experience. And my partner, we've been together for 4 years, so he's kind of, for better or worse, been drug along to watch some Passions now too. So in the same way that you got to watch Laura for the first time, I've got to watch Jeremy kind of experience it and come along for the ride.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, it is interesting when you've watched it and you're like, yeah, no, that's normal. Yeah, there's a 300-year-old witch and a doll, talking doll, and then the person that you've has never seen it, and it's not only have they never seen it, it's 20 years old, so it's like the quality is bad. Like they're having a very
Oh,
different experience
totally.
than what you are having, and especially a very different experience than what you had when you first watched it. So it's just like, it is
Yeah.
so interesting because most people have already watched Passion. Not most people, but most people who are going to watch Passions have already watched Passions. Right. And so, like, we all watched it at the same time, more or less, in our lives, where we were young and dumb and
Super
you know.
naive, and we were that lovable lunatic that we still love in Teresa.
Yeah, it's like, of course you love Teresa, but
Of
now, I
course.
did this with my very best friend a few weeks ago, and he uh like, he on the show, he talks about how he hated Teresa. Like when he watched it, he's
Oh,
like, I thought I
Terrell?
hate her,
Oh boy.
which is so like, I was so scandalized. I was so like, excuse me, but he dropped it. First of all, he dropped in a bad place for Teresa, and
You know what?
also,
That's totally fair. Yeah.
and also, if I feel like if I dropped in those episodes and I had never seen Passions, knew nothing about it, I'd hate her too. If you don't know anything about it, yeah. But anyway, let's talk Passions. We're talking episodes 391 through 395. You watched those this week? That's what you watched?
Yes, I did. I watched like one a week ago, and then last night it's like I left it till the last minute, like homework, and I just binge watched them last night. It's a really different experience watching Passions like passively, to like unwind at the end of the day, and then to be watching it and trying to engage and put all of the like connect all of the steps, because they don't make it easy sometimes.
It feels a lot more like work, right? Like this is a job, a chore. No, I watched all 5 episodes this morning. I am a notorious procrastinator, and I usually try to spread them out, but this week and last week I just watched them all in the morning, which I'm experimenting with because it's like, it's all very fresh in my mind. So I also didn't
Mhm.
take very many notes this week, which I didn't really need to because not a lot happened,
Sure.
But it does help if I do it closer to time to recording, because it's all very, very fresh, and I don't have to take nearly as many notes because I'm like, I'm definitely gonna remember that. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So let's get into it. We're gonna start with Magic this week because Magic was like the most interesting storyline. But of course it was. So, some weeks the Magic storyline really goes absolutely nowhere, and some weeks it is like the only thing happening. Where every other storyline is like, okay, this is so boring. We're all recap. It was a recap week, which makes
It
sense
really
because
was.
we're moving into episode 400. They're and I'm certain that episodes 400, 401 are going to be like extremely explosive because of where they fall. But this week is just get in where you fit in, learn what you don't know, so you can start this show with us now, but it was still fun. It's always fun. So let's start with magic. I have very small summaries for everything this week, like literally nothing.
Oh wow, okay.
All right, magic. Hecuba fails to force Charity into the depths of hell in her closet. And when Charity tells everyone what happened, they tell her she was just having a nightmare, as usual. So that's that's like the succinct version of things, but actually a decent amount happened here for poor Charity.
Yes, that was
Listen,
5 episodes of the show, folks.
poor Charity and Miss K is
Mhm.
in over her head.
Yeah, we're starting to see Kay. You know what? I'm loving that. I was just thinking this Hecuba and the actress who plays her. It's so great to see her play opposite of this Kay. I think it's
Mhm.
really helping her break into the role, and I think that she's getting a lot of experience from Robin Strasser, I think is her name.
Yeah,
Um,
veteran actress, veteran soap
yeah,
actress, and she's
yeah.
awesome. She's amazing.
Love to see it, but it's interesting to see that side of Kay where now she's starting to think, uh-oh, maybe I've got in over my head.
You think? Like, yeah, you're way. She's in too deep. Poor thing. I really feel. I honestly, I feel very sorry for Kay. Kinda. This was dumb, but she's a kid. She's a kid. I'm not saying I would have sold my soul for a boy when I was 15, 16, but I'm not saying I wouldn't have either.
No, I got you.
You know what I mean?
You won't hear me say that on record, but
I can't I can't say for sure that I wouldn't have sold my soul like, oh yeah, we're
totally.
gonna be together forever. Like, I can't say for sure I wouldn't have. Anyway, so we open up this week. The gates of hell are wide open in Charity's closet, which is just my favorite place for the gates of hell to be. I just think that's so hilarious. Like, just the view of this picture perfect girl's bedroom and like those adorable like French doors opening out, and
Yes.
then hell and all that entails. Lovely, lovely work passions. I just it's such a nice
I
touch.
I remember listening to Travis and Natalie's podcast, and they were talking about when they were getting ready to film this and saying like when the cast heard that they were going to do this Hell in Charity's Closet storyline, everyone thought, "Oh wow, like this is super ambitious. Maybe the show's going to invest quite a bigger budget or whatever, in this special storyline to get people to watch." And I think as we'll see, they're kind of working with what they have got, and
Yeah.
it's not much.
No, they're still, again, I will say this till I'm blue in the face. They're still recovering from spending their entire budget from filming on location in Paris at the very beginning of this show. They're just still recovering from that. So they just don't have the money. They just don't have the money. But I applaud what they did. It's hilarious. It made me laugh. I love Hell in the Closet. I love Hell in the Closet. I mean, anyway, I just think that's a spectacular place for hell to be. But anyway, I mean, like in it makes sense that it might be in a basement somewhere, but in the closet upstairs, you know? Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. It made me think, with because we're going to see the little angel girl and Hecuba. We're going to get to that, and when they finally have their little WrestleMania kind of face off.
Perfect.
And it made me kind of think for a second. Tabitha has to protect, the demons in her basement, but this little angel girl is trying to protect the Bennett house. And I wonder if it is more than just trying to protect the people that are in the house, and maybe it has something to do with the house. I might be trying to, reach a little far, but
We'll get to it, but my thing about the angel girl is like, why not go help Charity out? Why not go be it, Go help Charity
yeah.
out, go appear to Grace and let her know what's going on so Charity doesn't seem like a psychopath. Why not do something for Charity? You know what? We'll get there. So anyway, the gates of hell are open in Charity's closet. Hecuba's trying her best to push her in. It's Charity screaming bloody murder, screaming for help, yelling for help. It's very sad. um Miguel and Kay had been out for a walk but heard Charity screaming. So they run back to the house. Kay tries to keep Miguel from going up the stairs. She's like, "No, Miguel, you leave her alone. Like, leave her alone. Something clearly is wrong with this girl. Leave her alone." He runs up the stairs, tries to get into the room, but the door is locked. And he's like trying to push down the door, but he can't get into the room. And again, Charity screaming, help me, Miguel, help me, Miguel. And Timmy, well, this was my favorite thing. Timmy was like spying through the window for Tabitha, and he yells down to Tabitha, "The souls of the damned have charity." And I loved that. The souls of the damned have charity, because yes, they do. They're trying to push her into the flames of hell.
Totally. There's those three demons behind her, and she's surrounded.
Yeah. And Miguel is yelling at Charity through the door, "I love you. I will always love you. Never let go of our love." And Charity's like, "I'll never let go, Miguel." Okay, Kate and Rose.
All
Oh,
right,
Kate and
here's
Rose.
the thing with this is first Miguel, it took him like half the episode to run up the stairs. So that was one thing. But he's banging on the door and he's like, "Charity, I would do anything for you except knock down this fucking door." Like, good God.
I think he was trying to. I think Hecuba's magic was keeping it in place. Because then
Totally,
she does,
totally. But it's
because
just like, oh my, the
because
love
then
is the only thing that can save them.
she sees that Miguel being there is weakening her power. So she's like, if he makes it through the door, I'm never gonna get her. Because again, let me just remind everybody who doesn't remember, Hecuba is like watching this all from her cave in her magic mirror. Okay. So she sends like, I don't know, fire power through the mirror to like force the a chair up under the doorknob, right? So he can't get in, to try to keep him out. Um, but that doesn't work. Eventually, he makes it in, and he comes through the door, and we don't see anything but like his face, and he's like, "Oh my god." And of course, having watched this, I was like, and even if I had never watched all of this, I would have known because of the way that this show is set
Oh, it's
up.
just a classic kind of soap way of transitioning out of one episode for the next, right?
Yeah, that he didn't, they're going to come in the room and not see anything.
Yeah,
So which is what happened. He came in the room, he goes, "Oh my god." And it's just Charity on the floor by herself, and she's passed out. So
that's
which is
not really
great.
that abnormal at this point. That's just par of the course, right?
I know, but m- my issue this week, my issue is no longer with Charity. My issue is literally with everybody else. My issue was with everybody else, because
The
Charity,
gaslighting, yeah, totally.
so Charity's passed out on the floor. Simone, Kay, Miguel come into the room. Miguel gets Kay up. Not Kay, sorry. Miguel gets Charity up, and Charity explains everything that happened. She's like, there were demons, and they were the color of my walls, and they're trying to push me into the gates of hell. That were in actually first she says they were here, and they were in the closet. And so Miguel, Simone, and Kay all seem to think that there's like an intruder in the house. Somebody has attacked Charity. So Miguel like goes to the closet to try to open it and see if anybody's in there. Of course, nobody's there, because then she explains, no, it wasn't like an intruder. It was like the demons of the deep trying to push me to hell. And that's when Miguel's like, "Oh, well, you must have just been having a nightmare. That doesn't make any sense." But she makes an excellent point, which is, if I was having a nightmare, why are my clothes ripped? Why are
Yeah.
my clothes all torn up? And he says, "Oh, it must have just been a really rough nightmare. You must have just been having a very rough sleep and torn them
You
in
were
your
just
sleep."
thrashing around in bed.
But she was on the first of all, she was on the floor.
Yeah.
And second of all, she's been screaming for 45 minutes. She was not asleep. She wasn't asleep. Unless she's having like an incredible night terror and didn't realize she was asleep, but she wasn't asleep. And like she said, her clothes are torn. And why would how, when she's asleep, would she have torn her clothes that way? I don't know. It just doesn't. She's thrashing about and she like accidentally rips her clothes all over. Doesn't make any sense. Nobody's listening to this girl. And the irritating thing at this point is if the walls hadn't started bleeding in this house, if the house hadn't been attacked by an unkindness of ravens, I would be willing to go with everybody else is like, oh, she's just dreaming. I would be willing to go with that. But we all saw the fireball.
Yeah.
We all saw the light destroy the fireball. We all saw the walls bleeding. We all saw the fucking birds attack. It's not outside the realm of this house that we live in, this crazy house that we live in, that maybe Charity's telling the truth. We all saw these things. Miguel especially. Miguel irritates me because he was down in the mine shaft. He saw everything.
That's right. Yeah.
He's seen evil Charity. He's seen Charity like be possessed by demons.
Well,
he knew she
choked him nearly to death, on the harbor during the prom boat.
Yeah, and then shot lightning at him in the shaft, the mine shaft. He's seen evil Charity. He's seen her be possessed by demons. He knows that she was possessed by demons. Like, he knows that is what had happened to her. So when she says demons came here to try to get me, I don't know, maybe listen.
Yeah, even back to like early in the show, around like Christmas time, I think the first year when those like angels came to life in the church and all the kids, saw these angels moving, and then, Sam's like, oh, it must have been, carbon monoxide or whatever it was. And it's like, how many kind of supernatural events do you have to go through to think, like you said, this could be in the realm of possibility? The show is like, I love it, but it's so ridiculous in the way that all these characters are able to draw conclusions to exactly what's happening in their storylines. Like, Grace can speculate about Sam having a love child with Ivy, even though she hasn't really been given all the pieces to put that together yet. But you have the blood dripping down the walls and the ravens in your house, and you think that your niece is delusional.
Right. She's the crazy one. Again, had everyone not witnessed all the other crazy stuff, I would be right there with them. Like, yeah, lock her up. Lock her up. Oh. No, but they've seen it. They've seen too much at this point to be dismissing her the way that everybody dismisses her. So Hecuba blames Kay. Kay goes back to her room. Hecuba's like, this is your fault. I told you to keep Miguel away from Charity. And Kay's like, rightfully is like, then tell me how to keep him away from her, because I can't. I'm just a mere mortal with no fucking soul. I can't do it by myself. I can't do it alone. Hecuba, help. You're the all-powerful witch. Why don't you tie him up or something? Shit. Like, that's just off the top of my head. If can Hecuba not do anything to Miguel? Because
that's a good point.
Couldn't she knock him out or something, and he's passed out somewhere and doesn't hear? I don't know. It just seems like she should be able to do something about Miguel. But anyway, she doesn't. She blames Kay, who, poor little 16-year-old Kay, who this is absolutely not her fault. Poor thing. She's going through it because she knows that something horrible is happening to Charity. She's the only person who, besides Charity, who knows for sure something. She doesn't know exactly what's going on, but she knows something awful is happening to Charity. And she's just walking around like, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. Oh, and yes, it is, my love. It is your fault. It's 100% your fault. And the funny thing is, well, this isn't funny, it's sad. Charity looks Kay in the eyes multiple times in these episodes and says, you know what's going on. Tell me what you know. Tell everyone what you know.
Oh God, yes.
But Miguel specifically, I remember Miguel specifically was very irritating to me, because he goes up to Charity multiple times. It's like, you're scaring Kay. I'm scaring Kay. Like, I know that what she has something to do with what is happening to me. And Charity does know that. And she should stick to her fucking guns. On this one, I'm on Charity's side. She should stick to her guns. She should be a little bit firmer about this.
I never thought that my first episode of Passions podcast would be like, fighting for Charity.
I know.
Never would have dreamed Team Charity, but you know what? Like, just throw her a bone for God's sakes.
I'm just temporarily here. I'm just visiting.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No,
I'm just visiting the team. I'm not a member yet.
Oh my God. My mom was all about Charity, and it's like, but you know what? My mom was all about like Seventh Heaven and that kind of shit. And it's like, oh God. What was interesting about her, except you wished that she was your child instead of your gay son.
Oh no. No, I mean, I don't know your mother's.
That's a little harsh. No, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know your relationship to your mom, so I can't say. But to her credit, I did love Seventh Heaven. I was a big fan.
Oh my God, me too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was a kid. Yeah, isn't that terrible? Yeah.
And it's so bad. It's a bad.
Oh my God.
Show.
I was so shocked when I grew up and I was like, oh, like I'll just like watch a clip on YouTube, and I was like, oh my God, like smoking weed is like, worse than, and I don't know. It was just very, I don't know, very subliminal, I guess, that you don't really notice as a kid just how entrenching these views are that they're trying to indoctrinate in you. I don't know. They're really good at it.
Yeah, well, you know what? It was like very obvious, like a very clearly, obviously, like a Christian show. This is a Christian show that you can show your children. It's wholesome. It's a good show to show your kids. And we're gonna teach them all the dangers of the world, right? Like, and show them how to be better people. And when I was a kid, because I grew up going to church and like being in a youth group and like being in a youth choir, I went to more church. I spent more time in church than anybody should ever. I say all the time, I'm not going back to church because I've put my hours in. I put in my 10,000 hours. I'm done. Like, I'm finished for my life. I've got it. I'm done. But Seventh Heaven was so, like, I remember watching it and be like, oh my gosh, is Mary gonna have sex? Like, yes, oh my goodness, yeah. What's gonna happen? But yeah, no, watching it as an adult is just like, yikes. I would not show my kids this.
And then of course, like, Stephen Collins is a whole other story that really just ruins any semblance of trying to have nostalgia about that show. But like, yeah, that aside, it's not holding up. You know what? Passions is holding up a little bit better, I think, than Seventh Heaven, and that is saying something.
Passions 100% holds up better than Seventh Heaven does. 100%. But let's keep talking about it. My bad. I'm off on a different subject. So Charity again explains everything to everybody. Nobody believes her. They never believe this girl. They all, and what's interesting to me is that she says all these things. If you think she's delusional and like having delusions, get her some help. Like, seriously, get her some help.
Either it's not that, like, or your mom, her aunt's best friend is the town doctor of all trades.
Right. Get her some psychiatric care, because this is serious and it's escalating, right? But since they have not decided to go that route, the only other thing I can think you should do as a rational adult who cares about your children is that you would believe her, especially after the murder of crows and the unkindness of ravens.
Unkindness of ravens. That's perfect.
Isn't it? An unkindness. I looked it up because I was like, what is a group of ravens? It's an unkindness.
Wow.
Interesting. But anyway, they let Miguel like sleep over in Charity's room because Charity doesn't want to be alone, which whatever. And Charity wakes up the next morning and she's just like, I'm doomed. I'm gonna die tonight.
She sits up like the Undertaker, for God's sakes.
Yeah. I'm doomed. I'm gonna die tonight. And Miguel wakes up like, wait, what was that about somebody dying tonight? And she's like, nothing. No, just go back to sleep. Poor thing. But Hecuba's down in her cave saying the same thing. Charity's doomed. I'm gonna kill her tonight. Right. So things. Let's go over to Tabitha's house.
Yes.
Hecuba's pissed because she cannot kill Charity.
Yeah,
Which,
Tabitha's like, I told you that it wasn't easy to get Charity.
yep, I loved this. I loved this, like I told you so moment. Because Hecuba shows up to Tabitha's house, starts making shit just explode. And she's like, if I can't destroy Charity, I'm gonna destroy you two today, right? And Tabitha's like, see, I told you it's not so easy, is it? Miguel, you see what I've been up against. Miguel is his like love bubble. It cannot be burst. Like you can't do it. And then Hecky was like, no, I'm going, if I can't destroy just Charity, I'll destroy everybody in this house. So she like starts to call forth the demons, and I don't know. Did you write down the incantation? Unfortunately for Hecuba, these writers did not write her very nice like spells. Tabitha has much better spells.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't write down that one. When we get to the next day and the spells that she makes in the next day, it's really, really poorly written. Like it was kind of like the teacher is like 2 desks away from you and you need to show them that you've done your work, and you're like scrambling to have something that looks like it's
just wrote anything. It was
bad.
Was like, it doesn't even rhyme. What is this? Yeah. So she does some kind of bad spell, but she makes like a giant fireball. She's holding it in her hand. She's like, I'm going to shoot this at the Bennett home and destroy everyone inside, Kay included. Fuck her. Fuck her. So she's about to like throw this ball at the Bennett home, but that angel girl shows up, that little angel bitch, and they have like a real magic fight, which I was really, honestly, I was pleased by, because so often we see this angel show up and she does absolutely nothing at all. But she like destroys the fireball with the light, right? The light destroys the fireball. She destroys the fireball, and then she and Hecuba like trade power shots. Like she's like blowing wind at her. The angel girl is like blowing like wind and light power.
I didn't really watch Pokemon as a kid, but like, is that what? No.
I love that you like. Is that what Pokemon? I don't know either. I didn't watch Pokemon as a kid. I know the theme song.
I'm gonna assume this was what anime would be like.
Pokemon. I would watch it through the theme song, and then I would turn it off. I love that theme song. It's so good.
Oh, of course, yeah.
It's so good. Pokemon, gotta catch 'em all. It's a good song. Anyway, but no, I have no clue what Pokemon is like. But I have watched a lot of other anime, and no, it is not like this. No, it is much, much better. The quality is much, much higher.
Oh, fair, yeah.
But they do have like a cool little fight, which I was happy to see. Some real sorcery happening.
Yes, the little angel girl was really getting some. She was really taking Hecuba down. I mean, I don't know if you saw Hecuba like fly into the Hidden Passions life-size poster and hit the ground, and I don't know if witches can get concussions, but like little angel girl did some damage. I would not want to be against her. I'm not getting on her bad side.
She got some good shots in for sure. I mean, she foiled Hecuba. Essentially, she won the fight because they fight, and then she just disappears. And that was interesting because she disappeared and then she came back out of like nowhere. They didn't give us any reason to believe that did you notice that Hecuba was like, where'd she go? And Tabitha says she disappeared. And then Hecuba and Tabitha have like a little conversation where Tabitha says, maybe you and I should join forces. But Hecuba, of course, is like, I work alone, bitch. Get out of my light, get off of my stage. I work alone. But the little girl shows up again. They fight some more. It's crazy, but it was I thoroughly enjoyed it personally. I really did.
Yeah, I really appreciated, you know, if they're going to like do silly like side stuff to drag things out, I'd rather them do stuff like this. Like that's hilarious.
Yeah. So Charity at one point, and I know we've touched on it some, but that she has a bunch of like hysterical moments. I hate to use the word hysterical. What's a better word to use? She has a lot of heightened emotions, heightened emotional moments where she is telling everybody like we need to get out of this house, and nobody will listen to her. She's just like, we need to get out. And again, the walls in this place started bleeding a day ago. Of course you need to get out of the house. Of course you need, like, you shouldn't need the 16-year-old girl to tell you you need to get out of the house. Obviously you need to get out of the house. And I think Lisa made a good point on last week's episode where she was like, where she said the walls are bleeding, there's like ravens and crows. At the very least, there's something like environmentally wrong in your house. Like there's some, if even if the paint has started like running, there's something in the air that's making that do that you probably shouldn't be breathing in. Like you should get out of the house. You shouldn't be on the land anymore.
Well, did you hear TC's explanation of what oh my god, it was
Well,
the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
didn't he say something about it? Maybe it's rust.
No, he said, oh, I've got to
Oh, the
figure it out. Like
slaughterhouse.
years ago,
He
there
did
was
the
a
rust.
slaughterhouse on the land,
Yeah.
and you know, maybe like the blood from the septic tank clogged up the pipes, and it's like, and that,
No.
you know, Eve's like, that's a good as explanation as anything, as if that's not the dumbest fucking thing she's ever heard in her life.
It's like, ma'am, you're a doctor. You know better. You're a fucking doctor. You know
You
fresh
would
blood.
smell if there was anything in your septic pipes clogging that up for years.
And
That's all.
and only the blood comes back, not everything else in the septic tank that's been down there for
And it comes
presumably
down
100
your
years.
doors, down your walls. Like it's not even it's not connected to any pipe system, but
And it's
whatever.
just blood, and it's like 100-year-old blood, because they said that the Cranes owned that land and there was a slaughterhouse on that land many years ago. Like presumably it's been like 75 or 80 years since these
It's gotta
houses
be
have
some
been built.
generations. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, no, that's, yeah, you're absolutely right. That was the dumbest fucking thing. And Eve was trying to be the dutiful wife and not embarrass her husband in front of everybody. But she's a fucking doctor, and she should know that blood doesn't just start seeping out through the walls after 100 years in a septic tank. How to get out of the septic tank?
You know, and while we're on that subject, it's like one thing I'm really hating on Passions today, but you know, I love it. I love it, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
one
That's
thing
what
I
this
hate
is
about
about.
it
We
is
wouldn't
that,
do this
like,
if we didn't love it.
everyone on this show, they want to explain something away with a simple answer. Like, you know, and it's usually the men, it's TC, it's Ethan. They don't ever give the women an opportunity to like finish their thought. It's like, oh my goodness, I thought of it for you. Here's what it is, honey. And so like, but sometimes just, you know, and to my fellow dudes out there, like just sometimes, you know, listen, but also just accept that some things don't have an answer right now. It's like the show always wants to be a sitcom in that way, where it's like, instead of solving things by the end of the episode, it's like, oh, we'll just solve this every 3 months. Even though the storyline is going to go on for 6 years. And you know, it is what it is. We've got Eve checking Charity's vitals, and she's like, oh, everything seems to be checking out except for your accelerated heart rate. So is everything checking out or what?
Right. So she's fine at first. Eve's like, I'm gonna just take your blood. And here is my issue again. They're like, oh, we need to let Eve examine you. And so they take her down to the living room. Charity doesn't understandably does not want to be in her room anymore. She does not want to be left alone. And so she's down in the living room. They sit her down on the couch. Eve, somebody says, do you need us all to leave, Eve? And Eve's like, no, I'm just gonna check her blood pressure and check her heart rate. This young woman is likely having a psychotic fucking break. Right? Like if you've decided that you're not going to believe the supernatural things, she's having a psychotic break, and you need to do more than check her fucking heart rate. like, because it's her brain, it's not her heart, it's not anything,
Totally.
it's her mind, right? So yeah, that's so ridiculous in and of itself. But Eve does take her like heart rate and her blood pressure, and she's fine at first, but then Kay comes in the room and she sees her and she like starts glaring daggers at Kay, and that's when her heart rate goes up really,
Yes.
really high. And Eve says like, we should just keep an eye on that, but then everybody goes to a fucking party. I just
Right, and Eve says, maybe you should just go to bed," and Charity's like, "I don't want to." Like, ugh,
yeah,
Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
they're like, that's another thing. They keep telling her maybe you need to go to sleep. Well, you're the one saying she's having nightmares. I think the last thing she needs to do is go to sleep.
Oh, good God.
I love this show, but I hate it. Like
Oh my gosh, I totally get you, of course.
it's crazy. But so after all of this, um, one important thing that happens is Teresa and Ethan show up at the Bennett home, which honestly was like such an interesting like little crossover of characters, because you never see Ethan at the Bennett home,
Yeah,
right? And
that's
I
one of
don't think
my
I've
favorite things about soaps is when you've watched these people for years and they've interacted in their own spheres and their own bubbles, and then all of a sudden you have like the Lopez Fitzgeralds over at Tabitha's house, or you have like Julian interacting with Timmy, stuff like that. It's just
yeah,
such magic.
is an interesting little crossover that you don't really see very often. But
Yeah.
Ethan goes with Teresa to the Bennett home, and we will talk more in depth about the way they are inviting people to their fucking engagement party and this fucking engagement party. But they go to this house to invite everybody to their engagement party tonight. The engagement
I
party
know,
is
right?
tonight, and I'm coming to invite you today. So she goes upstairs to talk to Miguel, because Miguel is the main person she wanted to talk to, because that boy never goes home. She never sees her brother. She was like, haven't seen him in weeks. I don't know. But he's here, isn't he? He normally is here. So I came over because I've been looking for my brother everywhere, and I just assumed he'd be here.
But
But
even Ethan is saying, I need to get to know my future brother-in-law. It's like you haven't really got to know Miguel over the course of 400 episodes. I mean, I guess really Ethan and Teresa haven't been together that long, but it's like, I guess he's really just all about Charity. And you know
yeah,
what? I don't get it.
I
I don't get it.
I've said it. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. I do not understand the appeal of Charity for Miguel, but now Miguel, I'm like firmly anti Miguel. I don't like him as a boyfriend, as a character. I just don't like Miguel. I don't like the way he's like constantly minimizing Charity's feelings and constantly like telling her she's just tired, even though he knows that she's like something there is even if he doesn't know exactly what it is, even though he absolutely does. He there's obviously like an underlying current of like crazy there. There's something going on. Anybody with a brain can see it. And if you spend that much time with a person, you would know, right? But yes, Miguel is never at home, so Teresa has to come to find him at Charity's house. So she goes upstairs and tells him, we're having this engagement party. I really want you to be there. It's really important to me because we're family. And Miguel is like, well, I just don't think Charity's up for a big party. This was interesting to me. I understand that Charity's not necessarily up for a party, but if I were Charity, she doesn't want to be left alone. It might be nice to
That's a
be
good
out
point.
among other people at a place with a lot of other people, and just not be in that house anymore. If I were Charity,
You're
I would
right.
definitely
Well,
want to
she
get out of
was
that
saying
house.
to Grace, I just want to get out of here because it feels like the walls are closing in on me. And Miguel is saying, nope, we're going to stay right here tonight.
Yeah. So Miguel's gonna miss his sister's engagement party to like sit with Charity, which I understand. I understand because she's having like a rough time. But why
Sure.
don't they both go to the party? I think they
Yeah,
should just both
totally.
go to the party. And I think Charity would be fine at the party. She just needs to get out of this house. But Miguel refuses. He says, nope, not going. It's not happening. Teresa's hurt, but she understands. They leave. This Kay is like this gets her wheels kind of turning. She's like, okay, maybe I can get Miguel to go to this party without Charity, right? And I
Yeah,
think this
because Kay
was
needs to get Miguel away from Charity because Hecuba isn't powerful enough to destroy Charity if Miguel and their love is all too powerful. I just want to go back for a second
yeah.
to say that, you know, when Charity was still in the bedroom and everyone was coming in, like Sam and Aunt Grace and everybody, I just want to say Reese walked in with a fresh haircut, looking absolutely fine. Reese Durkee, Harmony's turkey. Miguel, step aside.
You're right.
We have a new himbo in town, and I am here for it.
I also absolutely want to talk about Reese because he shows up with like the George Clooney's Caesar haircut, and he is looking fresh and fine. He really is. And he says to Eve, he's like, Dr. Russell, do you have that slide of
The
the
blood
blood
sample or
cell,
something?
the blood cell, like it was like what do you say, an isolated blood cell, like one cell. Like, you do not have, or maybe he does have a microscope powerful enough to like examine one blood cell. But the thing, my issue is, actually no, he doesn't. I'm going to cut all that out. He didn't have the microscope to examine this blood cell, because then he gets on the computer. He's like, I want to figure out what kind of animal this came from, or if it's a human blood, because Eve says that the lab didn't have time to test it against other samples, blah blah blah, right? So then he sits down at the Bennett home computer, no microscope in sight, okay? And he starts to say, like, I'm going to examine this cell against all the other. How? Without a microscope. It's
Right?
a,
I mean,
it's
he's
a
like, you know,
blood cell.
I can't find a match for this you know, blood sample. And Charity's like, that's because it's demon blood.
Yeah. And they
Or
still,
it's not of this earth.
this poor baby, that's exactly what she said. It's not from this earth, it's demon blood. And they still are all planning to go to this party and leave this baby at home by herself. I just, they plan to leave her at home by herself with their kids, with the knives and everything, just out. She's crazy. I'm scared of her. I would be, no, there's no way. There's no way. If I was Sam Bennett, there's no way this crazy girl could be in my house with my kids, like, by herself. Now, again, that is also if I hadn't ever seen the blood on the walls and the murder crows and all the other shit. But they're still gonna leave this girl at home with their kids,
In
just
a
like
house that bleeds.
in a house that bleeds, and she's exclaiming to be, and to be clear, Charity is no longer like super timid and passive about it. She's being very upfront and putting her and being very firm about that
Yeah, she's
demon
not really
blood.
leaving as much room for interpretation anymore. She is saying, this is exactly what's going on, and this is exactly how it's making me feel. And you know what? To still be shut down at that point, oh my gosh, that must make the situation that much scarier.
Yeah. Well, she's saying it's demon blood. Everybody looks at her crazy. Bless her little heart. I mean, she's not wrong. You know, if I'm looking at it from like a rational standpoint where I haven't seen any supernatural things, then yeah, no, this seems crazy. And of course, it's not demon blood. But if I've seen all the things that everybody in this room has seen, okay, that tracks. Demon blood tracks. That tracks. Sure, it's demon blood. Okay, I'll go with it. I'll take that. I'll buy that. So anyway, Hecuba eventually gives Kay the idea to tell Miguel that to go to the party, to go to Teresa's engagement party, because it's very important to Teresa, which it is, but also saying, you know, Miguel, I know you're worried about Charity being alone. I will stay with her.
Mm-hmm.
Miguel accepts this, and so does Charity. This was interesting to me because if I was Charity, and like I just said, she's been very firm about her feelings and how she's feeling about things. And she apologized to Kay, saying like, I'm sorry I said all those things, only after Miguel like basically forced her to. But if I'm Charity, I don't feel comfortable being home alone with you. You know what I
Oh my
mean?
God,
With
no,
Kay
not at all.
at all. So it's interesting that Charity would kind of go along with this, even though she's been so adamant this entire time that she knows that Kay has something to do with it and that something horrible is going to happen, specifically that she's going to die tonight. Right. So, like, it's interesting to me that she would be okay with staying with Kay in the first place, but also that Miguel would let this go as well after seeing how uncomfortable Charity is with Kay right now. You know, I don't know. Miguel just doesn't pay attention or listen. He's a bad boyfriend.
He's a bad boyfriend. Yeah.
He's a
And I don't want to harp on Kay too much, but like I gotta say, those pajamas were awful. The upside down monkey faces. Like if she were like a little girl, like the little angel girl's age, maybe, like that would be fine. But like she just looked so ridiculous. And I just remember writing down because at the beginning of one episode, Kay's having this nightmare of the worst case scenario, and you can tell it's a dream right away because Charity sits right up and she's like, it's you and you have no soul, and Miguel sits up and he's like, I can't believe you did this. And then when Kay wakes up in her bed, I'm like, thank God, hopefully she can get dressed.
Were they like those was it Fred Siegel monkeys?
It must have been. They looked familiar.
Because I remember those were so popular. I've never had any Fred Siegel. The shit was way too expensive for my family, but for ugly monkey shit. But yeah, they probably. I wonder when you said monkeys because I didn't even notice. Like they were pajamas or whatever. It was cuter than the shit I sleep in. Well, I don't really sleep in anything, but it was cuter than the shit I walk around my apartment in. But but when you said monkeys, I was like, huh. That was a big thing in the 2000s. Fred Siegel. Did you have any Fred Siegel stuff?
No. I don't even really know the name that well.
Oh, really? Maybe
No.
it wasn't that big. Maybe it was just big in the US. It's huge. It was a big deal. Monkey. It was everything had little monkeys on him.
We used to we had the really ugly they were like the hats that had the monkey. I don't know.
Yeah,
you
that's
know
Fred
what I'm
Siegel.
talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. That's the Fred Siegel monkey.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen them around, but no. Even if I did have the opportunity to get them, I don't know that I would have wanted them. But to each their own, though. I mean, monkeys are cool.
They were super. It was just a super trendy brand, and that was like their whole shtick was that little monkey. And do you remember what's the one that everybody Von Dutch? Do you remember the Von Dutch hats? No? Really?
No, anyway, I'm only 25. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little
okay. No, that
I'm
makes
later
sense.
90s kid. Yeah.
Yeah, no, if you're only 25, it might be tougher for you to remember those things. Von Dutch was like huge, but Fred Siegel and Von Dutch, like those came up in kind of the same time, and the same kinds of people wore those things.
Okay.
But anyway, like little preppy white kids wore that stuff,
Oh yeah. Okay. So I do want to jump back to Passions. Just one other thought about Kay trying to convince Miguel to go to this party. She kind of makes a good point, even though she's being manipulative. She's saying, what kind of impression are you going to give your the Crane family if their future daughter-in-law's brother is a no-show at the engagement party? And I think that was something that kind of got through to Miguel. And you could see Hecuba back in Kay's bedroom, like holding the teddy bear and holding like this porcelain doll and celebrating that her little minion is
she's getting the job done. Magic. She's getting the job done. Yeah. And actually, there's one other thing that I didn't talk about, which isn't like that important. And sometimes I skip over stuff because it's like it happened, but it didn't do anything, and it was like kind of a waste of time. I'm gonna talk about it anyway. At one point, Charity is changing her clothes, and it's like one moment when she's in her room by herself, and so Hecky was like, "This is my chance. I can kill her now." And so she takes some scissors and makes some scissors like float across the room, but the little angel girl, presumably the angel girl, knocks over a little angel statue and like throws it on the floor so that Charity like bends down and the scissors miss Charity. But the scissors wouldn't have hurt Charity because they were moving at the slowest pace possible.
Right. I actually
like
I wrote down what Hecuba's little incantation was, her spell for this one.
Yeah.
It was needles and pins, trouble begins. Good girl alone, Hecuba wins.
Terrible.
And then roses are red, violence so nearby. Don't look now or you'll ruin my goodbye.
Terrible. So
I
bad.
could not write
so
those
bad.
myself. Oh my God.
Tabitha gets much better spells. Much better. All right. So that's pretty much it for magic this week. You got anything else to add before we move on to the next little story?
No, you know what? I think that it's really all going to come together at this party tonight that we're going to have to learn a little bit more about at the Crane Mansion.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about very quickly. Let's talk about these little troubled marriages. What's going on with these married couples? I'm leaving Ivy and Julian out of this because theirs is really wrapped up in Teresa and Ethan's storyline. Sure. But just two little things that happened. This is like the little summary. One, Eve privately mourns her lost son. Two, Grace finds out she's pregnant and everyone annoyingly makes a big deal about the possibility of it being a son. So let's talk about this. Grace, first of all, poor Eve. Eve is in her office and there they are. And she is reminiscing or thinking about this phone call she just had with Alistair, where Alistair says some horrible things to her, basically. And we talked about this last week, so I don't have to go into depth about it, but basically says like, oh, what a shame that my poor little black grandbaby died. And so she's like looking at these little blue booties that she bought for her baby when, you know, and she's been hanging on to them for many, many years, 20 years. And she's kind of mourning her lost baby. And then Grace comes in and just walks in to her office. And she says, you know, what's going on? I heard you talking about somebody losing a baby. And Eve just says, oh, I was talking about a patient and I bought these booties for her, you know, but she lost her baby. And so then Eve and Grace talk about how awful it is to Grace says how awful it must be to lose a child. You know, she's never felt pain like that before, and whatever. But the important thing is Grace tells Eve, I've been feeling really sluggish lately. I'm not feeling myself with everything that's going on, which of course you don't feel very good with everything that's going on. I would be fucking sick if the walls in my house started bleeding.
Right? Yeah, no wonder you feel like you have a mild flu.
Yeah, at the very least, I'm surprised she hasn't had to be admitted to the hospital. I would absolutely have to be admitted to the hospital if birds came into my house and like attacked I'm terrified of birds. Like, it's one of my fears.
On another podcast, did you say your biggest fear is birds?
One of my biggest fears is birds, and I'm scared of birds. And so I would absolutely need to be hot. Like, they would have to I would need inpatient psychiatric care. Sincerely. If the walls started bleeding in my house and birds attacked.
Is your fear because of like the Alfred Hitchcock movie, or is there like a real life incident that I don't want to untether you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Honestly, I was attacked by a goose.
Oh my God.
I know how crazy it sounds. No, I was attacked by a goose when I was 15. I was working at a zoo.
Okay.
And a goose named George attacked me, and it was a very harrowing, horrible experience. And I'm not saying that's exactly where my fear of birds like started, because I definitely always was like uncomfortable with birds. And I had seen the Alfred Hitchcock movie, like that also like does play a part in it. But no, that I did get attacked by a goose. I think it's just a number of things. I don't like how they like congregate, like, I don't like birds. Okay. I don't, they just seem sneaky. And like, if they ever decided to, that like they wanted to get rid of us humans, they could do it in
Oh,
a
they
day.
fucking could.
They could
Yeah,
do it in a
we're
fucking
done.
day.
Yeah.
Okay. I just birds make me very uncomfortable, and they're unpredictable. The thing about New York is like there's pigeons all over the place, you know, and but there's also people. And so people like will walk through the pigeons, but then the pigeons like just fly out into different places. I've seen people get hit in the chest with pigeons, like a pigeon just flying into their chest. Like I don't like birds. So that's a little bit about me. Um but yeah, there you go. Sorry, I'm off on
No,
a
and
tangent about
yeah,
birds.
back to passions, I guess. Like we see Eve is suggesting like, okay, like let's do a few tests to see what's going on. And so like in walks Chad, because Eve is going to also help do a DNA match for Chad. But that just kind of seems to be like something that they're going to keep pushing off and off and off for quite some time.
Yes.
So we see Eve get the Grace's test results back, and in typical soap fashion, open up the document, and she looks like Grace is terminally ill. She looks like whatever is on this paper, there's no treatment method, like it's bad. And then we come back from commercial, and she's like, "Oh, you're pregnant! It's wonderful news! Oh, this is great!"
Yeah, you're pregnant. Wonderful news. This, you know, this is glorious, a glorious thing for you. And then they go into this whole conversation about how Grace talks about how she always wanted to have a second son with, like, here's the thing. What irritated me about this was that Grace and Eve have this conversation about where Grace saying she always wanted to have another child, specifically another son, as if she doesn't have 3 children that she barely
I
raised.
know, right? It's like
Like,
you already cast off your firstborn son to wherever he is at school, let's say, but like it's the most ridiculous dream ever. Like, how badly did you fuck up this child's childhood that you want to have another son?
you're right. Noah is off. Noah's off at God knows where. Jessica, we barely ever see because she just feels so responsible that she has to like take care of her own family and work her nails to the bone at that B&B in that antique shop of Grace's. And Kay has sold her soul. Like, you have 3 children that need a mother.
Yes, and you have Charity too now. You really have essentially 4
Yes.
children, right? And
Yes.
you have Charity like needs attention.
And you already not getting this child the help that she needs.
Yeah.
You don't need an infant, lady. You do not need an infant. And but she's like talking about how she's always wanted to have another son, and I know Sam always wanted another son. Like, why you have a son? What? And then at one point she's like, Noah's gonna be so excited to have a brother. Noah is grown. He's not going to give a fuck about that baby.
Right?
That's not
Yeah.
like when you're that old and you have a sibling that's that young, they're not like your brother or sister to you. They're almost like your own child or like a niece or a nephew.
Totally.
It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like growing up with having a brother. You know what I mean? It's so like presumably Noah's like 19. He's older than Kay. So he's going to be 2 decades older than this baby. He's not going to care that much like, oh, that's my brother.
I
I
don't
mean,
know. Like, I don't know about you, but if I was 20 and my mom was like, I'm having another kid, I would be like, oh my God, no. You poor thing. Like, you
listen,
just got through the 18 years. Why are you, you know?
my mom has a younger brother who is like my sister's age. He's like like 38. He's younger than my sister. So
Okay.
I think he's like 36 or 38. My mother is 62.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Right. So there's like 30 years between them. They don't feel like siblings. They don't talk to each other. Like they don't think of each other as really as siblings, you know? And I know a couple of other people like that where they have like siblings who are like 15, 20 years younger than they are. Like one of my students has a sister who's like in her 30s, who's like my age, and she's like 10, you know, and it's like, yeah, that's not it's not the same thing as having
Mhm.
a brother that you grew up with who's just like a few years older, a few years younger. But Grace acts like it is because she's an idiot. Um, I this whole conversation about sons is just triggering for me. And I know I've had this conversation on the podcast before, but it's just so triggering that you have children and you have a son. You already have a son.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you need another one? Why do you have like this fear? And I don't like that they had this conversation as if Grace couldn't have kids ever. You know, she's like, we tried, but it was, you know, we wanted to have another one, but we just, you know, it just didn't work out for us. Well, you had 3. Stop being greedy.
Yeah, I know, right?
There's a lot of people who can't have any children at all.
That's right. Yeah.
Stop being so greedy, Grace. Greedy Grace. She's a greedy girl. She wants all the babies in the world to not take care of.
Oh my God, no kidding.
All her kids need a mother. I think great. I don't know who's the worst mother on Passions.
Oh God.
Like that we've gotten to, because I think Beth's mom is probably
oh yeah,
Edna Wallace is probably
my partner has no idea about Beth's character development, and that's one thing I'm looking forward for folks to see who are watching for the first time.
She makes such a turn, doesn't she? Like, woo.
But I guess when we're talking about moms, I'm thinking Rebecca, maybe.
See, I was thinking Rebecca too, but the thing about Rebecca is she does want the best for her kid, and she's very
dedicated.
She's a very involved mother.
Yes.
Like she's super involved. And so I actually wonder if either Grace Pilar or Eve are one of the worst. Like Eve, we never see Eve mother her children, like beyond like, don't talk to Chad. I want better for you for your life. But like, where's the love, mom? You know, oh my God, these episodes, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but these episodes, she has a moment where I'm just like, ugh, that's not the way you talk to your kid when they came in second place.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep. Oh gosh. You know, I have to wonder about Ivy though, maybe. I mean, obviously Ethan, she is a dedicated mother to Ethan. She's, you know, but she has Fox
3 other kids,
Fancy and Pretty, and Jesus Christ, those are some names, but but she has those 3 other kids, and I mean, I get that they're not on screen and they're not part of the storylines yet, but like there's never any like, oh, I wish they were here for the holidays, or like, Ethan, you're getting married, your siblings should be here for the engagement party or for the wedding. There's none of it.
You are absolutely right. Ivy is the worst mother. Ivy is the worst mother, period. Because imagine being a kid and your mom is like equally bad to all of you. Fine. But imagine being a kid and your mom thinks that your brother is literally better than you are and doesn't care, and literally says all the time how much she doesn't care about anything else, no one else but Ethan. She doesn't say, I only care about my kids. She says, all I care about is Ethan. That's it. That's what she always says. And like you said, she has 3 other kids. And imagine being that kid where your mom, and you hear your mom like, I don't care about anybody but Ethan. Damn, that's ouch. Ouch, mom. No wonder they're never home, you know? Yeah. So yes, we've settled it. Ivy's the worst mother until we get to Edna Wall. That woman's a horrible lady.
Such a fun character to watch though, holy moly. And if you've ever seen Kathleen Noon in any roles before, like did you watch Sunset Beach?
I never watched Sunset Beach. No.
Okay, but like she, you know, I've seen her in more typical like soap roles where she's like the matriarch, or where she's kind of, you know, this rich wealthy woman. That's not what we're going to get with Edna Wallace.
No. So later we're going back to Passions. Sam okay. Sam goes to the Crane mansion with some police papers. He's like, Ethan needs to read these papers about the police review board because this is the proof that I'm not incompetent, but you are.
Yeah.
But you're incompetent. And so he's at the mansion there's a whole rigmarole about like Rebecca having this announcement to make that we'll get to, but eventually we see uh Ethan kind of blows Sam off, and Sam leaves and goes back to his home, where he finds out that his wife is pregnant. His wife is pregnant, and he's over the moon, right? And then TC is there too, and when the announcement is made, which again, this seems like it seems a little early to be like, I'm pregnant
Yeah,
in like a
you
high
know
risk
what? Like
pregnancy.
maybe Sam, I wouldn't be telling my kids. I would not be
Definitely,
telling them.
exactly. Definitely tell Sam, but it seems like odd to like tell like TC and the kids. Obviously, Eve knows,
Like
but
maybe wait until like after your 9 weeks.
yeah, wait for that first trimester to be over, because you are of an advanced age, and Eve makes this point to Grace, like the
Hmm.
any pregnancy is risky, but at your age, there's even more possibilities of complications, and so they make this whole big deal about like we have to make sure that Grace is comfortable and that Grace doesn't have any stress. And so at one point, our trio of Decepticons who are deceiving poor Grace, and all know about Ivy, they make like this pact, like we cannot under any circumstances let Grace know about Sam's past with Ivy, right? Like the stress might ruin the pregnancy. So
Oh
we
my gosh,
already
one shock could be fatal for the baby. It's such a typical soap trope, is like we have to keep this person under control because otherwise they'll die.
yeah, especially considering we know that she's definitely gonna be shocked when this party is happening. The ball is rolling. We know
Well,
what's gonna
yeah.
happen. We know. So it's like they just keep telling us like she can't be shocked or she's gonna lose the baby. Well, I guess that's
And I
coming.
wish they'd give the viewers a little more credit. Like I mean, I get that part of a soap is like being along for the ride. It's like knowing everything and the characters don't know anything. But
Yeah.
sometimes Passions really just spoon feeds us like too much. Like, when people are saying nothing bad is ever going to happen between us or whatever. But if you get that like 20 episodes in a row, like we're ready and waiting for that bad thing to happen, and
Right.
it's not going to come out of left field. It's going to be really expected.
Yeah. Well, we are, it's very very much expected. I already know what to expect when you're expecting, what to expect when Grace is expecting.
Yes.
Shocking news is what we expect. So they have a very annoying conversation. TC and Sam have a very irritating conversation about like having a son, and TC, look, okay, Sam has a son. TC doesn't have any sons. Okay. Even though I personally think it's ridiculous to care about having a son or a daughter, I think if you have kids, you should like just be grateful to have good kids
Celebrate your
and
child.
healthy children. But TC doesn't have a son, and that seems to be an issue. Not an issue, but that seems to be hurtful to him for whatever reason. As a man, as I guess it hurts his ego. Oh, he talks about how the Russell name won't live on. And it's like, yes, it can. These girls do not have to change their last names.
Totally. Yeah.
I will never, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I will never change my last name. I will never change my last name. For what? For who? For why? No, never, ever, 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 ever. Anyway, so TC starts talking about, well, maybe we could have another baby to Eve. He tells Eve, like, wouldn't it be nice if they could
Poor
grow up
Eve
and be
having to listen to this.
another Russell and Bennett duo growing up being best friends, and like maybe we could have this. You and Grace are the same age. It's not too late for you, sir. I am a medical professional. I'm not about to put my body through that. Like,
Right?
I'm not about to do that. I am a fucking doctor. I'm busy. I can't even mother the 2 kids I got. I'm not having another baby. Get off my back and my front for that matter. Get off of me. Ooh. So I don't know. It's just annoying to me. They wish they could have a son. Everybody wants to have a son. Meanwhile, your fucking daughters are having so many issues. You're already not parenting the kids you have. Well,
it's just like, and Sam's talking about like he's gonna teach his son how to play basketball, and they need to think of boys' names, and it's like maybe find out first before you make all of these decisions. I don't know, like,
right. Well, Grace is leading the charge on that,
oh yes.
talking about like, I'm pretty sure it's a boy. I have a feeling it's a
Oh
boy.
yes, the first three pregnancies, I could tell all along what I was having, but this time I'm not sure, so it must mean it's a boy. Like, what?
It's like, whatever, Grace. Grace. So do you have anything to add to this before we go on?
No.
No. All right. So before we go on, I want to take a quick moment, say a quick thank you to all the patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Munashe, Marcus, Erica, Breland, Lisa, Zach, Sid, Sarana, Dustin, Heather, Randall, Ashley, Hannah, Camelia, Amanda, Monique, Samantha, Amy, Jeanette, and Eric. Thank you all very, 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 very much for helping me keep this show afloat. I love you all very, very much. And if you would like to become a patron, you can also just go on over to patreon.com/passionspodcast and choose whatever tier is desirable to you. All right. Before we go on, Stephen, do you want to tell the people where they can find you at, like follow you, get your newsletter, all the different things? Just
Sure.
plug whatever, plug away.
All right. Yeah. So I mean, I'm a little all over the place, but if you're interested in my work, you can follow me on Twitter at Stephen Wenzel. And I do have my newsletter that comes out on Thursdays. It's called The Blueprint. It's politics, but also TV. So I just wrote about the Supreme Court last week, but I've also interviewed one of the Real Housewives, and I did an oral history of a soap opera from the 90s. So it's kind of a nice mix of material. It's the blueprint 902.substack.com.
Yes. And I will link all of those things in the description of this episode. So you can find those right down in the description right now. You can click on the link. And Stephen's newsletter is very good. I read it myself. It is very, very good work. You do very wonderful work. You're a wonderful writer, by the way.
Oh, I appreciate that.
You really are. You're much better writer than these people who wrote for Passions.
Oh gosh, well that's not necessarily a big
It's a low bar.
compliment.
It's a low bar. But you write very beautifully. So
Oh, I appreciate
everybody
that.
should check
Thank
that
you.
out for sure.
I would love to do I'd love to do kind of like I did with Sunset Beach. I'd love to do kind of an oral history for Passion's 25th anniversary.
Well, do it. If you'd love to do it, then do it.
Yeah, I mean,
When
why
is the
not?
25th anniversary?
Sorry?
When will be the 25th anniversary?
It'll be July of 2024, I think.
Oh, I guess
Yeah,
we're coming up on that.
1999. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, I'm getting old. Oh, the years keep coming in and don't stop coming.
No kidding.
Okay, so let's move on. We already talked about magic and troubled marriages. Let's quickly talk about Shuise because it was super, super small and hardly anything happened. Basically, let me tell you my little summary. First of all, Alistair plans to have the tape of Sheridan confessing to killing Martin played at the engagement party to break she and Luis up. The other thing that happens is Sheridan and Luis make a snowman to Sheridan and Luis make a snowman to cool their lust for one another. It was sweet. This week was really, honestly, I needed a week like this. I needed a week like this where there wasn't a whole hell of a lot happening, where we could just I could take a breath. I didn't have to like furiously type out notes and make sure there weren't a lot of like quotes that I was like, I have to get this line for line. Because sometimes there's lines that they say that I'm like, I have to rewind. I'm like, I have to get this quote. Like, that's the craziest shit I've ever heard.
I mean, Pilar's monologues, like, bless you for always posting those on Facebook and TikTok because they're great.
Yeah, there's some moments that you have to really get all of the words. I can't just paraphrase it. This week I could paraphrase pretty much everything. You know, it was an easy week, and I needed a week like this because watching Passions the way I watch it is it's work. It really is. All right, so did you have like this week an emotional connection with Julian?
You know, I kind of, I felt for him a little bit. I'll be honest, when Alistair's saying, "Who do you want to be behind bars, you or your sister?" And Julian saying, "But you're talking about not just your daughter, you're talking about my sister." I can feel for him for sure.
I had like I had like tears in my eyes. I felt so bad for Julian because first of all, Ben Masters gave like a really good performance that forced me to kind of feel really bad for him. But he's on the phone with Alistair. Alistair has been berating him like he always does, saying like, "What are you doing over there? That you're a fucking idiot. You're a bumbling idiot." Think about like 55 years of that kind of abuse. What that does
Totally.
to a person. You know what I mean? From the person that you put above everybody else every day, all day, every day. You know what I mean? And they're constantly verbally abusing you and knocking you down. But not only that, what really got me was at one point, Alistair plays the tape of Sheridan's like confession,
Mhm.
right? And Alistair explains to Julian, because Julian says, "How'd you get that? Where'd you get that from?" He explains that he had it stolen from Eve's desk from her office, and that he already had a conversation with Eve and she's not going to do anything about it. And he says basically the same thing about my poor black grandbaby. She was all upset about the black baby that died. And Julian, you could see it in his eyes and his face.
Mhm.
Julian was really hurt too, because that was it. He says, "That was my son too.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was your grandson. Like that was my son too." And he says, like, "Don't you have any feelings for your children? Do you have any feelings for you?" Like it was a really, I'm like kind of getting emotional thinking about it. Poor Julian, because think about how thick Julian's whole like facade has to be. Like
Oh, no
that
kidding.
that he's built this over years. Like the nastiness of Julian is a defense mechanism, but it also is a coping mechanism. This is how he has coped with having a father like the father he has, right? And so you see that start to melt away and you kind of start to see his humanity in there, because he's like, "That was my son and he died." And like you can really make a little joke about that that's funny to you. Like it's not a good thing. I think he says like, "Good thing that baby died," something
Well,
like
yeah, it would have
that.
been the scandal of a black baby would have rocked the cranes to their core.
Yeah, he's like,
And
good thing.
Julian says, "Have you no heart at all?" And Alistair says, "I'll take that as a compliment."
As he's like counting diamonds.
Right,
That was
right.
They always give him the dumbest shit to do with his
And
hands.
I honestly I wrote a note about this. It's just like I appreciate Ben Masters for trying to make these kind of interactions as interesting as possible. He's got the magnifying glass. He's looking in the plant, and
Yeah.
it's just like, what the fuck do you do with this kind of material where you're just talking into a phone?
Right.
And you know what, if there was like some huge twist about who Alistair was, or maybe if he was a burn victim or something, if there was something unique about him that would necessitate having to like hide his identity for years and years and years, like that's one thing. But like, we know that Alistair's just going to be like a normal like guy. There's nothing behind that. There's no Wizard of Oz or whatever. So I
Yeah.
don't know why they go through such hoops to try to keep this up.
It's silly that they did that for so long, because they do it for many years. I mean, we're already over a year in now.
Yeah.
They do it for many years. And before they reveal, and then the reveal is it really fizzles. You're like, "Oh, that's it. That's it."
Yeah, it was just like a Friday cliffhanger one time, like 5 years
I'm
into
like,
the
"Oh,
show.
okay.
Like,
All
here
right.
he
Well,
is.
now
Yeah.
Alistair's here." But yeah, Julian Julian really pulled at my heartstrings in these moments on the phone with Alistair. I because he definitely, we know, well, and also we know that he like loved Eve in his own way, and that he, you know, Alistair was influenced by his own father. So not Alistair, sorry, Julian was influenced by his father, and he just he does care about Sheridan, and that's he's made that clear too. He doesn't care a lot about Sheridan, but he also doesn't want to look weak to his father. That's part
Totally.
of it. I think he cares
Absolutely.
more about Sheridan than he lets on, but he doesn't want to appear weak. So anyway, they're gonna have Alistair says he's gonna have this tape played at Ethan and Teresa's engagement party so that everybody can hear it, I guess, and then have I was unclear about this, and then have Sheridan locked away in an asylum.
Yeah, and like not even forever until if what I wrote down is right, is that he just wants to lock Sheridan up for a couple of years, and then when like Julian gets married to some new woman,
No,
maybe
when Luis
Sheridan
gets married. When
oh,
Luis
when
gets
Luis
married.
marries a new woman, that makes more sense. So when Luis moves on, then maybe Sheridan will come to her senses and realize that the love of her life is really just the next stock portfolio for the Crane Empire, and that she's going to be assigned a mate.
Yeah, and she'll just go along with it, and she'll finally
Yeah.
just listen to them. Uh, Julian objects kind of to Sheridan being put locked away, but like you said, Alistair says to him, well, would you rather go to jail or have shit,
Mm,
like choose between yourself or Sheridan? Which one of y'all are going to be in a 6x6 cell? It's either going to be her or
yeah.
you. And he says, well, obviously I choose myself to be free and Sheridan to be
Yeah.
locked away.
Yeah.
But like, then he says, like, have you no feelings at all for your children? And that's when Alistair says, and I actually wrote this one down. Alistair says, what value is that? I deal in facts, not feelings. He said,
Wow.
feelings don't increase your stock portfolio. The Crane Empire is a fact and must be protected at all costs. Like, the fuck? And the thing is, when he talks about the Crane Empire, he doesn't, it's not about the Crane Empire, it's about his own name. It's about him. It's not
Oh,
about any of
absolutely.
the other Cranes. It's just about Alistair Crane and what Alistair's will is, right? So that's like their plan to play this tape, I guess, and then have Sheridan locked away. I guess by saying that she was just like hallucinating. I don't know.
I
How would that lead to her being locked into an asylum?
totally, yeah, and like, and Julian makes a good point too. He's worried about the family getting negative publicity from Sheridan being locked up, and Alistair's kind of just like, well, we kind of have to bite the bullet here. Better that Sheridan's in the news for that than you and I for our involvement in Martin's disappearance. But Alistair also notes that he has control of almost all the press in the country. He kind of is like what Donald Trump like wishes that he could be and
Right.
never will be. But it's like it's very cartoony and campish
Yeah,
how villainy Alistair really is.
he's very much a cartoon villain, very much a cartoon villain, like Mr. Moneybags. Like he just, yeah. So I don't understand how this plan is supposed to work. Hopefully it will play out in a way that makes sense. I have no faith that passions will do that for me. Um, but meanwhile, while all this is going on, Sheridan and Luis are just having the sweetest little time. Huh?
Yeah, I like that. You know what? If you're not going to do anything, like I said, if you're going to just have side, you know, filler, have character development instead of having the plot kind of like slow down the story.
Yeah.
It was really sad hearing about Sheridan. Like, she talks about being a kid and how she would always look out the window for the first snowfall. And she'd always dream about going out and building a snowman in the first snowfall. But her fucking parents wouldn't let her because she's a crane. And that's only something that, like, peasant children do. Like, what the fuck? Going out to play in the snow?
Yeah, it was weird too because she says she wasn't allowed to like make a snowman, but then when they're outside she was like, I've always been a champion snowball thrower. Which
Yeah.
one is it, bitch? Were you
Yep.
not allowed to play in the snow, or were you the champion snowball thrower? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
No kidding.
um so the reason they end up out in the snow, though, this was really sweet ish. Sheridan has just been trying to like cool her jets on Luis, just trying to like, because Eve has told her not to do any strenuous activity, because remember the lady was brain dead. Okay, she was dead for a while too. So they said don't do anything that might be taxing
No
on your
strenuous
heart,
activity.
right? So she can't have sex with Luis yet until she gets cleared. But she's so horny.
Oh
Oh
my
my
God. When she
God.
like asks for
Sheridan
the
is
back massage, that's like the G-rated version of a blowjob. Like, come on.
Sheridan was so horny in these episodes. At one point, Luis like rings the doorbell and she opens the door in her
In a
towel.
towel.
She goes to the door in her towel. And he's like, maybe you should put on some clothes. And she's like, well, I don't really want to. Like, he's like, it's cold outside. And he's like, but it's warm in here. Like, oh my gosh, she was trying to get it in with that man every way she could. But and they made out, and but he was like, I really don't want for you to overdo it. And so then they have the conversation about her playing in the snow or not playing in the snow as a kid, whatever. And then they go outside and they make a snowman. And then they have a snowball fight, and then they make out in the snow. It's adorable. It was very nice. It's nice that we're getting these moments before all hell breaks loose, because all hell is about to break loose.
We even get a little moment there at the end when Julian gets off the phone with Alistair and he goes out to the Crane foyer and the foyer, however you say it, and looks out the window and sees Sheridan and Luis like embracing outside in the driveway. And he says that he almost feels sorry for them. Enjoy it while you can, kids, because after tonight you won't be having much fun.
Yeah, he does say that. Yeah, all hell's about to break loose with them. All right, where else there's another place all hell's about to break loose. Let's talk about these fated couples. Oh my goodness. I really want to talk about Whitney and Chad before we get into Teresa and Ethan, because this was actually really sweet. Here's the little summary. There's very little. Whitney and Chad share some very special and lovely moments, and Rebecca decides to expose Ivy's secret about Ethan's paternity in the most explosive way possible this week. That is what happened. So let's very quickly talk about Whitney and Chad. We see Whitney on the tennis court for the first time in like 200 episodes.
Whitney plays tennis.
Right?
What? Yeah,
Whitney plays
that's
tennis.
Awesome.
We open the episodes where she's at a tennis match, and she's playing, and she gets distracted because she thinks she sees Chad in the stands. She hears somebody say, "You can do it, Whitney." And then TC's like, "Whitney, concentrate." And then she misses a thing, and it goes out of bounds, and she loses the match, right? We find out that she came in second place in the whole tournament. It's not like she lost. She came in second in a big tournament. But TC, this is my issue with TC and Eve. They do not need any more children. Look at what you're doing to the children that you have. Simone, where is she? Where is Simone? When was the last time you talked to her? First of all. Second of all, poor Whitney came in second place, and these two people act like they're like so disappointed that she came in second place in a tournament. What a horrible
parenting.
Horrible. You should be lifting your kid up no matter what place they come in. You know what I mean? It's one thing to be like, I know you're disappointed that you got second, because coming in second can be very disappointing. Don't get me wrong. I totally understand that. It's coming in second place is like the fucking worst. I hate coming in second place because you're just so close. But you're from a parent's perspective, your parent is not supposed to make you feel bad about coming in second place.
No,
they're supposed to build you up, lift you up.
You don't need.
Right. You already feel bad enough, right? TC and Eve both kind of trying to make her feel guilty, like you need to be focusing. TC says something about this is why girls shouldn't have boyfriends, because they're going to get distracted by looking up in the stands for their boyfriends and this and that. And it's like, first of all, Whitney doesn't even have a boyfriend, even though TC accuses her of having a boyfriend, and she's like, no, I don't. But also, I did not care for the way he said girls. And maybe I'm the only one who picked up on it. I just didn't like the way he was like, girl athletes shouldn't have boyfriends. It's like, what about like is it okay for boy athletes to have girlfriends? Like, will they also be distracted, or is it just
Yeah, right.
that girls just don't have the capacity to have to have a full life and be an athlete? I just didn't care for it personally.
No, and you know what? I'm going to argue that Whitney lost that game not because she was distracted by Chad cheering her on, but because her father kept being like, concentrate, you
Yeah,
got this, concentrate,
right.
focus. And it's like, you're psyching me out, Dad, you know?
Not only that, but since when can anybody concentrate when someone's yelling, concentrate at them?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
Right? Like, you're yelling at me, so
Mhm.
you're throwing off my concentration by yelling,
Yeah.
concentrate at me. You're really doing yourself a disservice, and me too. Please stop yelling.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine. That would be so embarrassing if my parent was like shouting at me in a gym full of people, and you're just trying to play a game in like the stakes really aren't that high. Like they're in high school.
What? Well, that's another. I want to get to that actually. But before I get to are they or aren't they in high school? Um, the thing about a tennis match too, is it the kind of sport where you yell, right? Like, is
Yeah,
it?
no
I
kidding.
mean, you at football, you yell.
Yeah.
Basketball, you hear people yelling. Baseball, you hear people yelling. Like, I think of tennis kind of like golf. I think it's kind of a quiet sport. Like,
Yeah, so you can focus. Yeah, yeah.
people don't typically yell at those kinds of events, because like tennis is historically like a game that like royals used to play,
Hmm.
and so like that same decorum has like been passed down through
Decorum, that's the word. Yeah, exactly.
centuries. So it's not
Um,
the kind of game where you yell like concentrate, good hustle. Like, it's not that kind of game.
no.
So
And you know what? I wasn't surprised with TC being disappointed, but I was disappointed in Eve. I mean, like, I get it from TC. You're trying to live vicariously through your daughter, and that has its whole issues on its own. But Eve has usually, as the show's gone on, we've seen her kind of be a bit more of like a grounding or a centering voice to say like, your father has these goals, and it's okay that, it's okay that you're not reaching them. But it's just like, she seemed so disappointed in her daughter. It was like she failed a class. Like,
yeah, well,
come on.
I don't know. I haven't seen Eve be all that understanding or nurturing of her daughter. She's mostly just been policing her virginity,
Yeah.
and policing her body, and letting TC just take over her whole life, and letting her husband live vicariously through their daughter.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Eve's 100% been on the same train as TC, the same track as TC, but she does like pull Whitney aside when they meet up at the hospital, because they're at the match at one point, then they go to the hospital to meet up with Eve, and Chad is there too. She pulls Whitney into her office and has like a little talk with her about like, I know you and Chad have been getting a little close, and she asks if Chad is the one who distracted her at the match. And Whitney gets really defensive. She's like, "No, mom, I know you didn't. You told me it was okay to talk to him, but that doesn't mean that we have already just like started being a thing and blah blah blah," which she has. It's so interesting how scared. That's another way that Eve and TC are not great parents. Their kids are scared to tell them the truth.
Yes.
Whitney shouldn't be afraid to tell her mom, "Yeah, Chad and I have gotten closer, but that's not the reason I was distracted." You know what I mean? But she doesn't tell her mom that. She gets really defensive, like I'm. She gets like kind of snooty, like I'm not talking to him. Like, yes, you are. Yes, you
Yeah, and
are.
you know what? You're right, but I can see why she's so annoyed about being grilled about this, because like she just lost the match and she's had to deal with that. Now she's being grilled about Chad, and it's just like, just let her be a kid. She doesn't
Just
really have much time left to be a kid. Like,
Yes, just let her be a kid. I agree. I fully agree. So speaking of her being a kid, I don't think she is, because they have decided to age up Teresa, which means they have had to age up Whitney. They have decided that Teresa is no longer in high school. This has been
Okay.
established now.
Oh yeah, I wondered if they graduated before the prom boat.
They didn't talk anything about graduate. They didn't say anything about
No.
graduation. We didn't know who was graduating. I mean, they talked about prom, so obviously graduation follows prom for people. But you can go to prom when
Yeah.
you're not a senior, obviously, because literally everybody in this town was on the boat. And so they never, and we never see these kids at school. So they're presumably would all be in high school. But very recently, they have decided Teresa was in high school. She no longer is in high school, which means that Whitney is no longer in high school, which begs an interesting question. Why isn't Whitney at college? Why isn't she playing tennis in college?
Yes. That's a really good point. Yeah, what is Whitney doing other than just practicing tennis and maybe teaching or coaching some other kids?
Yeah, I get, because I guess I guess she's on the pro circuit. I don't know. They don't explain it.
I don't
It
really
is
know
unexplained. It
how the
remains
tennis
unexplained.
thing
But
works.
I
I don't
know
even
if
know if the writers would understand that themselves.
but you know what? If somebody has as much talent as they say that Whitney has, like she's supposed to be the next Serena or
Well, then she
Venus
should have got a
Williams,
full ride
then she
to
would be,
whatever university, whatever.
yeah, but either she would be yeah, playing tennis at a university, or they would have her like on the pro circuit touring, right? Like she would be all over the world. She wouldn't just be in Harmony all the time,
No.
hanging out with being Teresa's sidekick. That's what she does all day, every day.
Yep.
We finally saw her doing something for herself, but generally we see her with Teresa. But anyway, so yeah, they've decided that these girls are grown, by the way.
Okay.
So Whitney has a moment where she talks to Chad. This was very, very interesting. I don't know why Chad did this. It didn't make any sense. Whitney has a moment where she talks to Chad. She asked Chad, by the way, were you at my match today, at my tennis match? He's like, oh, tennis ain't my thing. Ugh. Tennis ain't my thing. And no, I wasn't there, blah, blah, blah. He makes this big show about saying he wasn't there. And then we get a flashback and realize, oh, yes, he was. And he like pulls out a tennis program. Like, do they give out
Yeah.
programs at
I
tennis
know, like
matches?
a pamphlet or something.
It was like a program, like a playbill that you get when you go see the
Yeah, yeah.
show. And it had like Whitney's name big on there versus this other girl. So that's another thing. Like, I was under the impression that it was a tournament. Why is it like these two girls are like on the front of the playbill? Is it a tournament, or is it just like
They're the headliners. I don't know.
yeah, this major match? I guess, I don't know. But yeah, so she finds that in his pocket. It's like, you were at the match. Why did you lie? Do you have an answer for that? Because I don't.
And I thought that two separate things happened because I thought that at the end of one episode that Whitney, that Chad walks away, and then Whitney walks away, and then Chad pulls out the pamphlet, and we see the program or whatever. But then in the beginning of the next episode, Whitney can see the pamphlet in his like coat pocket, and then they pull it out and talk about it. So I
Yeah.
don't know if they changed their minds or
No,
what.
both things happened. It's just that's how we know that Chad was there, but before Whitney knows that Chad was there.
Okay.
Then Chadney. There's their name.
Yes.
I just came across it. I'm gonna start calling them Chadney. Then Whitney sees the pamphlet and takes it out, and so he says to her, he did think that she was living vicariously, or she was living for her dad's dreams or whatever. But then he says, you got some serious skills and you play with such passion. I can tell that that's really your dream too, because there's no way you would play like that if you didn't care really deeply about it. It was really nice. And then he apologizes for distracting her at the match. And he says, I'm going to make it up to you with a surprise. And the surprise is tennis practice. Great. Wonderful. It was actually really sweet. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
would
was
not
gonna
have
say I
liked
thought
it.
it was cute.
I would
It
not have
was
liked
like,
it, but it was actually very, very sweet. Like, of course, like Latara would be like, I don't want to exercise.
yeah.
Like, I've been exercising all goddamn day. Can we please just sit down? But no, she loves it. And he's like, it was extremely sweet because he takes her to the court. He gets like the tennis ball machine and he says, I want to make sure my face never distracts you again. So like you should I'm going to stand here and we're going to throw balls at you as fast as you can. I'm going to stand here so that you get used to seeing my face in the stands. It was really sweet. They shared some
Mhm.
beautiful moments in these episodes. And I love, you know what I really loved about all of this, where they're building, building the Chadney relationship, is that these episodes, they left Simone out of it. I needed them to leave Simone out of it for me to be able to like get into this, you know,
Yeah.
so that I will be on their side, because I know I'm going to be on their side. Before I was not, because I'm like, Chad, get a grip. Whitney is mean to you. Simone's right there. She's very
Totally.
nice and she's a smart girl, a beautiful, smart girl, wants you. And Whitney is not so nice to you. But they needed to leave Simone out of this so that I could really focus on Chad and Whitney and their relationship and seeing them and knowing that they should be together, right?
Yeah, I think that was like a really key moment where Chad realized, okay, you actually really do love tennis, that this is something that matters to you. And I've misjudged that about Whitney.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. At one point, Whitney like compliments Chad's easygoing nature and says, you're just so laid back. And I have every moment of my day scheduled, and there's all these alarms and all these things I have to do. But I really admire your laid back nature. And then they like kiss and they have some sweet moments. It's really sweet. Let's
Mhm.
move on to something that's not so sweet. You got anything else to add to Chadney?
Nah.
All right. Let's move on to Terethan. Okay.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Everybody's at the mansion waiting for Rebecca's big announcement, right? Rebecca has shown up. She's got Ivy's letter in an envelope. She keeps telling everybody, what's in this envelope will change everybody's lives forever. And like she just is she's
That's
so
exactly
seductive.
how she does it. Yeah.
Why is she so seductive about absolutely everything?
I know, that is just it's like that's what that actress, it's her go-to sort of, even just in the transitions, it's like the way she looks, not even at the camera, but it's just so seductive.
It's
And
seductive and sultry, and she's just got
yes.
this real sexiness about her, about every single thing she says.
Yeah.
Like, and I love it. I really do. So she's just like holding this envelope. At one point, I think she like bites it, and she's just like, it's just so ridiculous. But she keeps getting interrupted. She's ready to give this
Yeah.
announcement, but she keeps kind of getting interrupted. Everybody's here: Ethan, Teresa, Pilar, Sam, Ivy, Julian, Rebecca, and that other one,
And
Gwen.
Gwen. That other one.
Gwen. um, everybody, all the players are in the room,
Yes.
and Rebecca keeps kind of getting interrupted. Julian takes a phone call, then Ethan goes to answer the door and get he has to sign some contracts and do all of these things back and forth, back and forth. Finally, but right before Rebecca's like ready to like everybody's like, I'm done with my phone call, I'm done with my contracts, let's get to it. Gwen overhears Ethan telling Teresa, if anybody ever tries to split us up, I cut them out of my life forever. Because
Yes.
Teresa is like worried that people might be trying to come between them. Or no, Pilar's worried about it. And Teresa says that to him, relays Pilar's worries to Ethan. And Ethan says, you know, nothing's going to happen. And if something does, if somebody tries, I will cut them out of my life forever and never speak to them again. Gwen overhears this and is like, we got to pull the plug on this plan. We gotta pull the plug. Ethan will never talk to me again, which of course he won't. Like,
yeah, she's exactly right about this. You know, none of this plan that Rebecca has hatched is going to work, even on paper. Like, I'm stuck on this point where Rebecca is saying, I'm going to make sure that Julian divorces Ivy, and then I will be the next Julian Crane. Then I'll control Julian sexually, and I'll get him to adopt Ethan, and then you can marry your brother-in-law or whatever,
Yeah,
and
your
then
stepbrother.
we'll
You
all
can marry
have
your
everything we
stepbrother.
want. And
Yeah.
it's like, what the fuck? Like, there's got to be a better way.
There's got to be a better way. You've got to be kidding me. So Rebecca, Gwen tells Rebecca, like, we have to pull a plug on this. Ethan, I just heard Ethan say that he'll cut me out of his life. Like, and so Rebecca is like a deer in the headlights. Everybody's looking at her. She's got this fucking letter. She's like, okay, plan B. And she says, well, I just, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe. And Julian then takes the letter out of her hands
Yes, he
and is like,
does.
well, if you won't make the announcement, then I will. And she manages to get it back away from him. But it was an interesting moment. Like, I kind of loved that. A part of me was like, I wish that Julian had opened it and read it. Like, that would have been such a, I mean, the way it comes
Yes.
out is so incredibly explosive, but that just him, like, the moment of him reading it and like figuring out what the fuck it is.
And everyone that's involved is there, except Grace maybe, but like
Yeah.
it would have been the perfect time. Yeah. But it
Yeah.
was so fun to see Rebecca and Gwen kind of petrified for a moment there that everything was about to come crashing down in front of them.
And it could have been a really good moment for that actor to just, like, again, show some humanity. It would have been a really good, that would have been a really, if they want to keep going down that road, that would have been a very good way to do it, because he's shown us that he has love for his kids more than
Yes.
his father does. He thinks it makes sense to have love for his kids. He loves Ethan. He does love Ethan. He has said that, and he is clear that he loves him in his own special way. He loves him in his fashion. But he does not read the letter. Rebecca takes it back and says, well, the announcement was that Gwen and I want to throw an engagement party for Ethan and Teresa. And the other part of the announcement is because Ethan presses her and is like, well, you said it had something to do with me and my father, though. And she says, oh, well, I want to have a portrait commissioned of you and your father. And the fact that anybody accepts this is beyond absurd to me.
Right? Especially Ivy. Ivy's known Rebecca since they went to college. She knows Rebecca's devious, manipulative. I can't believe that she's just taking her at face value here.
Well, and then Rebecca says, oh, and we can't have the party at my house. We have to have it at yours. So now, not only have you said you're throwing a party for the woman that you hate and the man that threw over your daughter, but now you're not having it at your house. We have to host the party. Like, you're going to throw a party, but we have to host the party. Yeah. Rude. So incredibly rude.
No kidding. Yeah.
And then she advises Teresa, Rebecca advises Teresa that, well, honey, you need to really be getting your wedding announcement into the papers, because people will talk and they'll think it's a shotgun wedding because you're doing everything so fast and blah, blah, blah. She's like, I'll help you write the announcement. Teresa lets her help her. They get on the computer, they write an announcement, and then Teresa's like, and now I can email it to everyone. Email's a really cool thing where you can just send things all over the world. I just loved this, like, commercial for email, which is just, like, so wonderful. But so they email her announcements to all of the newspapers, every major newspaper in the world, which would take so long to find all those email addresses.
Oh yeah,
first of
no
all.
kidding, right?
But second of all, they do that, and Rebecca gets that twinkle in her eye. She's like, email, you say? Email. That's it. And so she formulates this plan to send this letter to tabloids, right? Email it to all the tabloids. I do want to talk about, before we continue on, the fact that anybody lets Rebecca throw a party for Ethan and Teresa, help her write anything, be in the same space, because Rebecca was the one who tried to send Teresa to the other side of the world, lied to Ethan, and they all know this. This is the thing that Ethan and Teresa know, right? Yeah. Lied to Teresa, lied to Ethan, then Gwen tried to murder Teresa. Murder
Yes,
her.
with a
Came to
baseball
house
bat.
a week ago. A week ago. Okay, it has not been very long. Okay, since Gwen came to her house with a baseball bat and then strangled her, locked her mom in a closet, and tried to literally murder her. Told her she was going to murder her. Told her she was going to murder her and she would get away with it.
Yeah, and now 1 week later, we're throwing you a party. Congratulations.
Now I'm going to throw you a fucking party.
No
fucking way would I accept that party. No way.
No. And I know that like wedding announcements are like a really small part of an engagement. They might not even be something that a lot of people do, but like I would think that that's something that like you'd want to do the two of you, maybe, or maybe with like somebody, maybe with a writer or something. I don't know, but to have your ex's mom be the one to inform that announcement,
It doesn't
it's
make any
so
sense.
gross. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, this is what is happening. This is
It's
what
the Passion's way.
This is the Passion's way, and it is. We have to accept it. This is what has happened. It is what is happening. There's a party. There's going to be a giant engagement party. We find out I guess the next day or a couple of days, like the Passion's time warp is insane. But that the engagement party is happening, whatever day it is, tonight is happening. Yeah. We get to the day of the engagement party. We skip over whatever happened in between. Well, Ethan checks in with Sheridan. Teresa checks in with Luis. They all talk about finding true love and how nothing bad can happen to them now. Meanwhile, the tabloid reporters are like debating on whether they should print this story or not, without ever getting in touch with like the Cranes to have. And you know what? Right. As a journalist, I would like for you to talk about this, because I feel like you would never print something about somebody's family like that and not try to get like tell them about it, because you would be liable, right? Like this could be slander, this could be libel. Like you could really be putting your publication in big legal trouble, especially when you go against a family like the Cranes, right? It's like going up against the fucking Vanderbilts.
Yeah, I mean, like it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, like if you did come across some like really big information like that, I mean, the first thing you want to do is maybe verify it, because maybe some things are too good to be true, and it's just, and that's the editor even says, that's the first thing the editor says to the reporter is, can we verify this? And he's like, nope, but we don't need to. And it's like, that's your first mistake right there. But yeah, even if you're publishing something about the Cranes, you're going to have to give Alistair Crane a call at some point to get his side of the story in, or to even just like give them a heads up. This is going to be in the Post tomorrow. If there's, if you would like to have your side of the story in, you're gonna have to get back to me by this time. And right. You know what? I will say that like maybe all reporters don't do this, but like if it's a really big story and you're reaching out to a really big person, I would give them plenty of time to get back to you. I would say like, don't get back to me by 5 o'clock today. It would be like carve out like a week of time, 2 weeks of time, and you would be following up with them and making like, efforts to get a hold of them. And if you don't, then like yikes, it's just not going to go well, especially with Alistair Crane. He is going to bankrupt you, and yeah, you'll be done in this town,
especially considering you have no source. You have no source. Well, right? You don't know what your source is.
Here's the thing though, you have no source, but this is going to be a whole thing with this whole storyline with the email. But you can at least look and see who the email's from. And that's going to be a whole thing, is where they are having a hard time figuring out the source of the email. But I don't understand why that is such an ordeal.
I'm going to tell you right now, because the people who wrote this show did not understand how email worked.
Oh my God, you're totally right.
That's they didn't understand how email worked, because as I was watching this, I think Rebecca says, or maybe the guy says it was like an anonymous email. No such thing.
No.
Like Like, I mean, you can, yes, you can make an email address that doesn't have your name or anything attached
Yeah.
to it, blah, blah, blah. You can do that. Rebecca didn't do that.
No,
Rebecca
maybe
just
it'd be one
sent
thing
it.
if maybe like she went to a website and like typed something in like a tip line or whatever. You could do that anonymous
Yeah,
maybe, but like
maybe.
she didn't do that. She emailed every publication in the world.
From like
So
Teresa's email.
yeah, from Teresa's email.
It's
So
like
I don't
it's probably
know.
like Teresa dot Lopez dot Fitzgerald at
At AOL.
Hotmail. Yeah, like yeah. So
Um,
yeah, anyway, they do that, and she does, she emails the thing, and the reporters decide they're gonna print it tonight. Then they find out that there's gonna be this whole big party. The reporters planning on crashing the party with the story so that he can get everybody's reactions and take pictures. It's this whole thing. I'm looking forward to it personally.
yeah,
But the editor like agrees to this ridiculous scheme and is like, we're gonna make history. We're going to destroy the mighty Cranes.
yes. Well, I guess this Daily Private Lives tabloid, they've been completely shut out of any like access to the Crane family, it seems like. So
Yeah.
they're, the whole time they've been in business, the Cranes haven't had anything to do with the sleazy tabloid. So, instead of getting the record straight, we're gonna tear down the almighty Alistair Crane.
Yeah.
And
So that's like mostly it. Teresa and Ethan go around town inviting people to their party tonight. Like, what? No, I can't come to your party. That's tonight.
yeah, no kidding. But you know what? It's passions. Everyone will make it work. And you
Yeah.
know what? It's a perfect little umbrella kind of story to get everyone together. And we're going to find out, we're going to have this culmination of Ethan's paternity, and we're going to have this Sheridan revelation from Alistair. We're going to see Grace and her pregnancy, and she can't have any shocks. And this is going to certainly be surprising.
I am
Um,
so excited.
and
I'm
somehow I
so
have this
excited.
feeling that there's going to be something magical about this night, that
Oh,
somehow
oh,
magic is gonna get involved.
yeah. Let us not forget, Charity's also supposed to die tonight. She feels it. Hecuba saying it. Shit is about to go down, and I am very excited. Very, very excited. So, the only thing I want to say is Ethan. At one point, Teresa keeps saying to Ethan how she doesn't want to embarrass him in front of all his like society friends, and that she wants to impress them. She wants to make sure that they're thoroughly impressed by her, I guess. And she's so worried about, like, oh God, one thing I do want to talk about, her hair was awful. Did you notice she had like the weird like little ponytails that like start right here, and it was like 10 of them across the back of her? Why would they do that to
Yeah,
that beautiful girl?
I know. Oh gosh.
Her
She
hair
looked
was really
beautiful
bad.
when she finally came out in her dress though.
Mm-hmm.
Like she looked great. Lindsay Hartley is just a beautiful person, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a
Yeah.
shame.
Ethan arranges for her to have like a glam squad
Yes, the
come,
glam
and
squad.
they get her and Pilar all dressed up, and they look great. I didn't like Pilar's dress, but I did love that she got to wear a gown. I will
I
say that.
I didn't mind the dress, but I thought that the like necklace thing was a little bit extra. I just thought it
Mm,
was kind of like clunky, or looked like it would be heavy maybe, but
yeah.
and it was really nice to see Pilar. At first she was very like, this is just not an experience that Pilar's had, having a glam squad come to her house and do her makeup and put her in a pretty dress. This is something that she sees happening around her while she's working and doing other things. And so she was really like apprehensive and reluctant at first to kind of be all dolled up and stuff like that. It was really wonderful to kind
Yeah.
of see her indulge a little bit in Teresa's fantasy that is somehow coming true before their eyes
Yeah.
against all odds.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to what is to come. But that is the show for today. We are finished. We did it, Stephen. Thank you,
Oh, we
thank you,
did it.
thank you again. You did such a great job. Loved everything you had to say. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You got anything else to say? Any last words?
No, you know what? It was kind of it was a little bit of a slow week to come in and do my first podcast, but it was really great to be here. It's been such a blast listening to you. It's great to talk to you about passions, and I think I'll be back in a couple of weeks to do another set of episodes, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. I think things are starting to get moving as the show gets towards February sweeps, as they call it in the
Yeah,
soap world.
I think you'll be coming in on like the like full-blown hellfire again. I think that's where we are, like full-blown the house is sinking, you know. So that should be a lot of fun. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you again. But
Well, thank
for
you so much for having me. And no, it was really great.
all right. Now, everybody, you remember you can catch me on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I'm trying my best to post more regularly, but it is very tough to do everything by myself. So please forgive me, everybody. But thank you all so much for listening. Again, this is like episode 115. Like, well, there's so many episodes of this podcast, which is insane.
I can't
to
believe that
me.
you and Laura started out doing like one or two at a time. And I really did enjoy listening to that. But I was like, I don't think that you can keep that up. I don't think that's feasible.
No. This is definitely the
Not that
right
kind of
path.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the best. This is probably the best format to actually get through it.
Yeah. Well, thank you all, everybody, for listening. And remember, you are my
A
passion
passion
for
for
life.
life.
Stop the